Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So today was a very dramatic day in the British Chess Championships. I feel like this is a day that everything really exploded to life. It's where the tournament started for real. Those are two very dramatic games. Luke McShane was playing, I believe, on board 3 against Matthew Wadsworth, who's a younger player trying to become a GM. He's a very strong player. Luke McShane had an interesting end game. He played very typical Luke McShane style, where he brought his knights into the game. He manoeuvred his knights around in a very positional way. It was very classic Luke McShane, great stuff, better structure. But Matthew played unbelievably well. He came up with some very clever idea to sacrifice a piece. And in the end, he was the one who prevailed. Although I do think Luke McShane is suffering from a little bit of rust. He hasn't played much. He doesn't play that much chess. I think Luke McShane needs to play a bit more chess because we can see a high level from him. Obviously using this as a warm-up for the Olympiad, but I think that's a few months away anyway. So that means that Matthew Wadsworth is on 3 out of 3. Joining him on 3 out of 3, Gawain Jones and David Howe. David Howe played another good game, very high quality game. However, his opponent at some point allowed David to capture on c4. It's a very surprising decision. So it's a little bit like a Fort Knox variation of the French. The white has the bishop pair. So slight edge for white, but you need to play it quite accurately because the pawn on g4, which means that the white king was slightly exposed. It's a slightly better version for black than normally would be the case. David is an expert in this variation of the Caro-Kann. But his opponent allowed him to capture on c4. After that, the white king had not a lot of protection on light squares, and it ended very badly for white. So another very smooth win for David. This is the problem when you play these people like David. You always feel the pressure because you know that they're going to be clinical if they get an advantage. This is kind of what happened. White was not accurate enough to keep him at bay. Gawain Jones also won against an improving young player. And the other dramatic game, I would say, was a game between Shreyas Royal. It was black against Mark Hebden. Mark Hebden prepared extremely well, which he always does in his King's Indian. He played a great game as black. It was a really amazing game. We were all really impressed. I was starting to think that he was a massive contender for the British title. However, there was a very tricky moment where white went Queen G1. And we weren't aware at the time how tricky that moment was, and neither was Mark because he blundered with Rook D2. It's 17 minutes left. That was enough time to maybe find a better move because there was at least a couple of better options for black. One was a lot better for black, and there was another option which was drawing. So King G7 was a much better option, potentially better for black. H5 was maybe drawish. So Shreyas won that. He's now on 3 out of 3 and starting to look like a contender, not only to get his final GM norm, but also potentially become British champion at a very young age. So very much warming up. I think tomorrow we're going to see some big clashes finally. We already had some big clashes today. Wadsworth is due white. So he could potentially be white against someone like... He won't play Michael Adams because Michael Adams won't have 2 upvotes in a row, right? So I'm not sure. He could play David Howe, maybe Wadsworth. Gawain Jones is due to play white as well. Is somebody maybe... there's a Gasanov hanging around, and Gasanov's decision to make a quick draw or repeat, was very surprising to me because, as I said before, with these players who are low rated, when they're playing people who are similar kind of rating to them and are playing the non-2600 guys, they've got to go all in. They can't just afford to make a draw because they need as many points as possible in the bank when they play people like David Howe, when they play Gawain Jones. But I think partly it's because they want to avoid them. Sometimes they take draws because they're like partly thinking about their mind, they want to avoid these guys. Let them battle it out. Now, Luke McShane, in theory, is out of it. I don't think he is because I think he's going to get easier pairings. So my updated odds are David Howes has come in the betting. He's now 10 to 11, so he's odds on. It's looking like a passing of the baton moment where the great player from the past, passing the torch, I should say, the greatest English player of the past, Sir Michael Adams, still a very strong player, passes the torch on to David Howe, the new GOAT of English chess. And then you have Gawain Jones also is quite short in the bet. So Gawain Jones is 5 to 1. We've got Michael Adams also at 5 to 1. And so David Howe 10 to 11. Michael Adams 5 to 1. Gawain Jones 5 to 1. Luke McShane has drifted to 7 to 1, but I think that's a good value bet because I mean he'll get easier pairings now. And if he gets the same score as those other players, it's not tiebreak. It's not done on tiebreak like they do in other tournaments. You would still have to have a playoff. So it would have a tiebreak if he's on the same score as those players. It won't be done on, you know, so you will have to play off for the title. So that could potentially happen as well. You've also got Shreyas Royal. Shreyas Royal, he's drifted today after an unconvincing win. Even though he won today, he's drifted in the betting to 16 to 1. And then it's 40 to 1 Matthew Wadsworth, 40 to 1 Stuart Conquest, and 66 to 1 Bar. So interested to see down below in your comments, who do you think is the favourite? I've priced up David Howe as 10 to 11. Is that too short? Should Gawain Jones be much shorter? Should Michael Adams be much shorter? Do you disagree with my odds? Do you think that Shreyas Royal has a chance? Do you think that Matthew Wadsworth has potentially a chance? This makes me realise I can win a British title because Wadsworth has shown the way. He's shown that you can beat these guys. It is possible. But you need to play exceptional game. He played an amazing game, Wadsworth. Funnily enough, Daniel Fernandez is also a very strong player. Potentially could have played this tournament. His tip to win the tournament was... one of his tips was Wadsworth. So his tip was Gawain Jones and Wadsworth to play off on 7 out of 9. So, you know, that was his tip. Well, thanks anyway for watching.